in the first half, I wish we were a little more astute as to doing our jobs. I think execution and taking advantage of the opportunities that are in front of us. In the first half, we had some opportunities that we missed as a football team. And, in the second half, we came out, did the things that we were capable of, played the way we are capable of, and we showed our resilience. But again, we got to stop putting ourselves in that position.
Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. I'm your dude here, Tony McGee, talking that same old game. Got some people with me. I got Mike Baker. I got Donna Hopkins. I got the G-Man. Don't even need his last name. And then Uncle Milk, the homer, came back in. Okay, guys, the coach said we got to stop putting ourselves in that position. Somebody tell me, how do you do that?
Donna knows.
Hey, Tony, the way that you do that is that this football team started the game off on the wrong foot. They get a penalty. They're in scoring position. They get a penalty that pushes them back 10 yards. Then Alex Smith is sacked for a 14-yard loss. So they didn't even get a score out of that one, and they were in field goal position. So, again, some mistakes made, turnovers made in the first half. But I think the second half is the way Ron Rivera is talking about, that the offense got on track, but still there are some defensive issues that they still need to get corrected. So if they cut down on the mistakes, Tony, this is where this team goes into the next area of being successful.
Can I ask a question of everybody? Do you think, I don't know, I just hearing Donna talk, I just got the inkling. She's right. They were driving down the field. Alex was in total control. That offense looked really good. And then they had the two penalties for 14 yards or whatever. Do you think if they'd gone in and scored there, it would have been a totally different game? They would have blown them out in the first half.
Well, first of all, you got to look at the message. When the game started, they were the only team in the league that didn't hang scored on their first possession.
That's true.
So, it was against them at that time. This is the first time in 728 days that Alex Smith was out there under the center as a starter. So, they had to get over that. And if you were watching the same game I was watching, they did not dominate. The offensive line is pitiful. I think I can beat some of those guys right now. I'm going to just call it the way it is. All these close games, all these opportunities they're allowing to get away with. Yes, I like what they're doing. I like that they're growing, but homegirl too, you as well. They got to do better than this. They're professional.
I agree.
You know what I'm talking about. We can't just each week keep saying they got to do this. They haven't scored. They're giving the ball away. People jumping outside. As a team, they all got to be held accountable. G, talk to me.
When you have all the season left in front of you, where quite honestly you can still win your division, you can't make the mistakes. You have to go out there and you have to win football games. It's mind-boggling to see that you have the perfect opportunity to win your division, get into the playoffs, and then make something happen. And to make the mistakes week in and week out, and then to have somebody come in, have the coach come in and have to make an excuse for you, that's embarrassing, quite honestly. Because after a while, he'll start saying the same thing every week because that's all he can say. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the player. I mean, the players play the game. Always been that way. People tend to blame the coaches, and sometimes it is the coach's fault, but more times than not, I've been playing football my whole life. At this level, I know when to make a decision. Whether the coach called it or not, I know what the right decision is to make, and that's the decision I'm going to do. The key is putting yourself out there to win football games. And at the end of the day, you win at all costs and not just be like, I'm doing the right. But sometimes what they say is not the right thing. Sometimes it's just what it is. I mean, they're guessing as well, too. They're getting game planned against as well. So as a player on the field, for example, as a player on the field, Tony, when you knew that you could get to the quarterback but you may have to go inside to get to the quarterback. But you know the guy was allowing you to get there, you still do it. Because you don't, because you're supposed to push everything back in. But there's times when, you know what, if I can beat my guy, I don't need to push it back in. I'm going to take that chance and I'm going to make the sack.
Yeah.
The key is making them play. Like, where's my playmakers?
And you know, the thing is, that's where you come with teamwork again. When we used to do that, I tell Big Dave Butts, I said, look, Dave, I'm going to take an inside on this guy. Watch my outside for me. That's all you have to do. That's what teamwork about. Milt, take a look at, tell me about Alex Smith coming back. And he ended up with 390 yards, 38 to 55. You do not want to see him throwing that much, but at the same time, it looked like the confidence is starting to come back somewhat. I know he hasn't taken the big hit, but right now, if they can get everything straightened out, he's the one entity, and he's the one that haven't been here for 728 days, that's
Tony,
really playing like he should be playing.
Yeah, you make a good point, Tony. You look at Scott Turner's offense and his scheme. It looks like Alex is doing better in this scheme. I mean, excelling in it pretty early than what he did in those years under the previous regime. And so he looks like he has, in my opinion, a pretty good command of what this offense does. And he is consistent as all get out. He's actually throwing receivers open. He looks under control all the time. And so I think that helps the team overall. But we got to get some defensive help in there as well. We got to get some stuff. We're playing from behind. He was starting with a clean slate. He wasn't coming in off the bench trying to dig out from under X number of points. But then immediately we get behind out the gate, and we're playing catch up after that. But I think
we know you. Now wait, Milt, you've been gone for a week. Then you come back here. You've been on the phone with Donna Hopkins or something. I mean, what's going to bring? We talking offense right now. Tell me, Mike, about that offensive line that people were running through it, and I'm seeing guys push guys into sacks. I mean, what is it? What can you do? And then you're running for 89 yards.
Yeah, that's all.
Peterson only got 4 carries and he had 21 yards.
And he caught a pass. I said he looked pretty good. He looked pretty good.
Yes, he did.
I was just looking at this chart on the offensive line, and of course David Sharp came in and played right tackle, and they moved Morgan Moses over at left tackle. I thought Morgan played pretty well over.
Yeah, didn't miss a beat. Yeah,
I thought he did. The person that I've been most impressed with this year, and of course they tried Wes Martin there, but they put Wes Schweitzer in there. I have been impressed with him over on the left side. But again, Tony, you're right. I mean, this is a sieve. You know what I think every week when I watch that offensive line play, I think, oh my gosh, the Washington football team is the defense on the other side of the ball. That's how badly they get pushed around every week. The other team has 5 first rounders. They're pushing the Washington team around. These two teams practice together, guys. Gary, Tony, you played the game. They're practicing every day together. Why in the world can't they make that offensive line better by playing against such a good?
Because they're both bad. Okay. Let's say, you know what? When you don't practice against, when I used to practice against the Hogs, I would tape up. I'd even think about doing whatever, put a little pipe in my pads or do whatever, because it was a game.
Yes,
it wasn't coming out there and playing around. I remember one time Rick Walker hit me in my back. Y'all make sure you tell him that. He knocked me off. He knocked me off the line of scrimmage. It's about practicing every day like you're playing. Hey, tell me this, G, though. The receivers are doing pretty well. And I think they like the quarterback they have. Do you think that they're going to flow, and maybe that's the way they should go, just forget about that little 89 yards they get rushing every week? Should they just depend on the receivers? I know what he's going to say, guys. I'm just setting it up for him.
Well, when Alex started, like I said, if he has a 4-game starting, you see what was going to happen. And it happened exactly as I said it would. He has commanded the game. He's always put up numbers any place that he's played.
Yeah,
when he starts, he just always has. I don't care, from Denver to Kansas City to here, he's always put up the numbers. And we have a good group of receivers. They showed that at the end of last year. We have a really good group of receivers out there. So, with Terry leading the way, I think you should. I mean, it's no different than at the end. When I first came to the Redskins, we was run first, throw second. By the time I left the Redskins, we would throw first, run second, because that's what our offense had turned into. We had 3 really good receivers, and our passing game was off the charts, and our running back still got over 1,000 yards. They still got over 1,000 yards, but the pass led the run. And I think this year it's going to have to be the same thing. The pass is going to have to lead the run, and that will actually make it so our running backs get more yards.
Hey, Tony, before you go on with this, let me jump back in with Alex Smith and the receivers, with which Gary is totally right. When you got Terry McLaurin, now you got both Sims getting in the mix. You had Wright to get in the mix. But what has helped these receivers in the last couple of weeks is Alex Smith and what he brings. And we're going to go hear about what Alex Smith brings to the receiving core and just that group as they begin to progress a little bit more each week.
As we all grow in this offense, that dialogue, those guys, we're all on the same page. With those guys are seeing the same thing that I'm seeing, or certainly that the quarterback's seeing, and that you do have that open dialogue to really kind of, I think, take the offense to the next level.
Alex is just a football guy, so it may be one play pointers, suggestions as to how to get open, or it could just be something that he's seeing in the game that I might not be seeing or other receivers aren't seeing. So, we just try to stay as a unit and stay on the same page. As being a young guy, sometimes things move fast, and when I can't slow the game down by myself, I know, I could count on Alex to help me slow the game down and, help me stay focused.
Maybe if he took the sunglasses off, he'd catch a few more. I shouldn't say that because we got one of the coolest receivers ever. So I take that back. But Mike, let me tell
Yeah.
Tread lightly, Tony. Tread lightly, Tony.
I just
you know
want
what I heard that, Mike?
Yeah.
I heard them say leadership.
Yes.
They never said the word, but they said what he's bringing to the table. Mike, tell me what you think of that.
I love this guy. I really do. I thought when we were watching the broadcast at the end of the game, the look on his face when they kicked that 69 or 59-yard field goal, the look on his face was priceless. He was disgusted.
Yeah.
He had played his heart out. They
Devastating.
even said that he may have gotten that delay of game penalty because he was a little gassed right then when they were going for the field goal. But I love this guy. And, he's only 37 years old. I mean, look at Breeze. He's 41, and Brady's 42. I think they should look at him as their starter next year. But you know what the discussion is? They can get out of this contract next year by paying the $14 million in dead cap space, save himself $10 million. And they're thinking they want to move on from this guy. That's what's wrong with this team. You look at all of those quarterbacks they let go, like Gannon and Humphreys and Trent Green. You look at all of these great quarterbacks they gave up on. The Skins just don't do it. I'm sorry, I didn't say the.
Hey, let's get Tony, let's get the offer tray out, please.
We got a minute and a half, and I want to say this. The money they talking about for him is not big money in the league now for a quarterback.
Right.
Not a quarterback of his quality. When you have a team that haven't been to the playoffs in 10 years or whatever it's been, you don't have the audacity to talk about, I'm moving on and I'm going to get a smaller contract. When you got a league or you in a division where the most wins in your part of it is 3, and you got a chance that you can still go to, you don't even bring that talk up. Right now, you talk about how positive it is to have that young man back on the field and in the locker room. Speaking of on the field and in the locker room, it was a couple of things I did not see when we talked defense the other day. Intensity, fight, and I don't know if those players even knew what number the quarterback had on. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. We'll be back in a moment. Say I apologize to you. I go out with bad feelings saying what I didn't see. Well, I didn't finish it. Let me tell you, we're talking about turnover. We're talking about aggression. We're talking about game tackling. We're talking about playing ball. This defense is not doing it right now. Mike got a big name for this defense. He always called it defensive line defense. Well, when I was a kid, we used to have grass in our yard, and we was kind of in the ghetto part of town, which I'm not ashamed of because it wasn't ghetto to us. So everybody put a little fence around their house, around the grass to keep the kids off. But when it was little kids that was never going to get in it, they just put a string around there. That's all they had in front of the wall.
I think it's embarrassing to show the
The
graphic.
wall is a strain. Talk to me, Mike.
It's
That's your name, the wall.
I started to show this graphic and I can't do it. In my own heart, nobody, only Cameron Curl, the strong safety, got a sack. Not one member of that defensive line, not even Settle, who normally gets at least one sack a week. No, nothing. Not even Kerrigan. Nobody. No, none of them got a sack. It's embarrassing to show that. I'm sorry.
Well, you know what, Donna, they came in being the #1 rated defense against the pass. And now we know why. But then they give up all these yards rushing. What's happening with this defense? You can't just put the blame on one facet. You got to look at everything. But what is going on with this wall? Because these are talented, very talented players.
Yeah, Tony, but I am going to put the focus on one area of this defense that has not improved from week to week, and that's the linebacker play. Yeah. They came in ranked 23rd in the NFL against the run, Tony. And each week, people are getting big chunks of yardage on them. They put a 5-man front up in the defense to slow down that. And I want you to talk a little bit about the 5-man front and what that means for the defense, but it's the linebacker play. Coach Rivera talks week after week after week about the linebacker play has to get better. And he also talked about consistent play. It's something that we're not seeing from the defense from week in and week out. Is they'll make a great play and then they'll disappear and be sleepwalking, but they have to get consistent on the defense. The secondary is playing pretty decent, but it's the linebacker play, Tony, that really is causing issues with that defense as a whole, but consistency. But could you talk a little bit about the 5-man front and what they had to do because they had to put that into play?
Well, you know, the only thing about a 5-man front is when you have 5 linemen that everyone can play. Because what you're doing with the 5-man front is you're putting 5 guys out there. That's where you got somebody on the center, you got someone on each guard and tackle. So everybody's going one-on-one. So you must feel that you have someone that could win a one-on-one battle. That hasn't been happening with them. But that's the opportunity for, they got 5 good rushers. But if you do not have anyone that's breaking that through, then you got 5 men in the way of each other. So when you put 5 men out there, you got to have at least a couple that has the opportunity to get to the quarterback. What you're trying to create with that 5 men is one-on-one all the way up and down the line where nobody can be doubled. With saying that,
but Tony, with that, if you have a 5-man front up in the front and they don't get to the quarterback, what problems does that create in the secondary of the defense?
Well, it creates right where you spoke of in the middle linebacker, in the linebacking area, because you're taking away maybe a linebacker, or if you're taking away an extra safety or something, that's in that middle zone is where they'll try to attack them. They'll send either a running back and he'll swing out the backfield and go about 7 yards and come across, or either they will send a tight end across and pull the people out and then let the receiver come through. The middle, the linebackers who will suffer with that. At the same time, you're making defensive backs go, maybe one of them could go to double team, the rest of them be one-on-one. That's why when you put a 5-man line out there, you must get to them or else you're not going to be successful. But that wasn't the only problem.
No.
I mean, Detroit gave up 275 yards last week rushing. And why? I mean, they get that many yards and they only got 89 the week before.
But Tony, before they answer that, let's go to hear from Chase Young in a little bit, because I know everybody's going to be heavy on Chase Young. You even said in the front end about the mistake at the front end, mistake at the back end. So let's hear from the—
I didn't say it on air, Donna. You didn't have to tell everybody.
Too late now, too late.
Rookie mistake, got it back to drawing boards and make the corrections. New week, new opportunity. They help with the run, definitely. They help you get a one-on-one matchup. They was trying to pound, inside and bring that jumbo set. So, we had to adjust.
I don't want to confuse you guys, so I'm going to go back to my analogy of the defensive line. If you remember when we started, Michael had, "They the wall, let's get the wall." Then about 2 weeks ago, they turned into defense, let's get defense. Not a string.
Now we're down to a
Okay.
string.
Can I
I'm
say,
not hearing all
Yeah.
that talk. Every one of them go in there and get paid on Monday. Am I right, G?
Gotta go cash that check.
That's what I'm talking about.
Can I ask
So you
one-
know what, Homer Jones? And you know who I'm talking about here. Give me your thoughts on it, Milt.
Listen,
You
listen.
know what we're talking about. Now,
This
you
has
know
been-
I'm not hard on the defense.
No, this has
But I
been
gotta
glaring.
tell, I'm like in the baseball World Series. I'm gonna call it like I see it.
All right, so this has been glaring for probably the last 2 or 3 weeks. Linebacker play has been off, and the whole purpose for having those horses up front, the five going to the 5-man front like that, was so that they could eat up some folks, so the linebackers would be freed up to stop the runs. But then I don't see him covering tight ends well in the passing game, and I don't see him stopping the run. So I don't know what the hope is in between safeties and linemen. So we've got a problem there. We know we have it there. Don't anybody panic just yet. As G reminded us a couple of weeks ago,
We 2-7. What do you
listen,
mean? Don't panic
2-7
yet?
and in second place. Well, tied for third. Anyway, we're in the mix. All I'm saying is this: we're definitely going to have to upgrade that linebacking core, because one thing Donna pointed out, and I agree, and having the privilege to experience a Coach Gibbs team from week to week, if there was a problem, and Gary can attest to this, it wouldn't be happening 3 weeks later. That problem wouldn't be happening 3 weeks later. So seeing that linebacker core or the defense as a whole get better, Cameron Curl is the only bright spot that we can pull out of that over these last 3 weeks, and he really has earned his playing time. I just think there's something there, and I'm a Del Rio guy. Don't get me wrong, but there's something going on there that's not working in that linebacker core.
Can I ask
But
one?
I'm still angry with him when he played with Buffalo, not with New England. So I ain't a Del Rio guy.
Anyway, I wanted to ask one question. There was one thing that really bothered me about Chase Young in that game. 2:56, the Lions are driving. He took himself out of the game. He was huffing and puffing. He crouched down on the sideline. They got a shot of him catching his wind. And I thought about you guys over the years in doing this show, and how in a crucial time in the game when the team is driving down to beat you, you would have never taken yourself out. And that,
You know what?
more so than the penalties, that really bothered me.
But it wasn't just him doing that's the norm now. And G can tell you, we were afraid to take ourselves out because you may not get back in. What gets me right now, what do they pay you for? Every time, and it's just not Chase. Everybody make a play. They want to come out and stand on line to drink water and look up at the cameras. I mean, come on, man. This ain't football. And I'm just being real. You can tell I'm a little frustrated right now. I'm going to vent on you guys. It's not just that. It's the whole deal. And you know what? It's time now for them to have some middle week practices, some 7-on-7, some hitting, some getting ready to play ball for that next weekend, and they'll be a better team. You know what the team in Atlanta did? When they fired the coach, they had a practice. They played 4 games, lost 1 by 1, and haven't lost another one. The practice consisted of scrimmaging in the season.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You play like you practice. I'm a firm believer in that. And if the intensity is not there in practice, just so as a side note, I coached basketball at the high school level for quite a few years. And there are a lot of sets you run through. But I always wanted to give players a game look so that you get a sense of how you're going to respond in game time. It's a different day in the NFL now. It's still football. I'd love to hear what Gary is chomping at the bit to say compared to what he's seeing now versus what he went through.
I just think I'd like to, Donna may have understanding this because she's around the players a lot more than the rest of us are, but I haven't seen a fist fight among players yet. And that tends to happen when a team is not playing well. Your leadership is very frustrated by it. And at some point in time, they blow their stack. Some people blow their stack sooner than others, but I couldn't fathom being in this situation. I would.
You be fighting all the time.
People would have a hard time understanding what G just said.
How you can't find that third gear to turn it on when you need to as one of the playmakers on the team to help your team, and that's, to Mike's thing, you're going out of the game. No, you want to be that guy that turns it around. You want to be the guy that makes a play. You want to be the guy that, your teammates look up to. And not just then, they'll look up to you years after you finish playing the game because they appreciate what you did for them while you played, and I think that's the testament. Like Tony, for example, Tony McGee has one of the longest running sports shows, period. That comes from the respect that people had from Tony from the way that he played the game. You can't just be somebody that didn't play the game well and have a 34, 35 sports show.
Yeah.
That does not happen.
Yeah.
And it proved it because typically you have a 2-year to 3-year lifespan as a sports show. And then suddenly you come out and you reinvent yourself as something else and you get another host on. So, but it comes from the respect of how he played on the field. If Tony would have been a scrub on the field, he would have had a show for 3 years like everybody else and had to move on and rename it as something else. But he was a beast on the field. His intensity that you see, like you just see with him talking about what he is now, because he's frustrated as well because of his passion still for the game.
Yeah.
And no matter what, we can respect all the other teams that are out there, but we're a Washington football team. That's who we are. All of us on this panel, we're a Washington football team, with the exception of Mike, who likes the Ravens. But everybody else is Washington football team.
He likes Dallas too.
Washington, he loves Dallas.
Yeah.
As a home team, he takes the Ravens over us. But
well, you know what? We got I'm going to have to take it off of this commercial, but when we come back, we'll talk about that because Mike Baker does talk about the Ravens. Don't think I was a great guy because I can remember in Chicago the day before we had a scrimmage, me and a guy, remember his name, Ernie Jenkins. We didn't like each other. He was a guard. He blocked me. I pulled his helmet off his head and hit him dead in the head with it. The next time I picked up a helmet, it was in Chicago when I did it, I had a New England helmet the next day.
Hey, Gary, we know
We'll be
that.
back in a moment.
Hey, Gary, we know that.
Hark, my ears, do I hear? The special teams did something well. Good field position, a lot of yards. Aren't y'all glad to talk about that this week, guys? But one thing we have going on, during the timeout, we had a little bit of an argument going. Someone was talking about somebody's relative. It wasn't their mother because it would have got out of hand. But at the same time, someone was talking about somebody's relatives need to be cut. So what we're going to do is turn it over to Mike.
Well, first of all, he's not 100%. So let's give the guy.
Oh, wait, don't back up,
No,
man. You talking about he calls how many games?
No, but maybe down a little
he
more.
added some creamer to that coffee.
No, but
Yeah, he did.
Mike, said he made us lose 7 games.
Right.
Yes.
Tell him. Now you want to backtrack.
Wait a minute.
His field goal misses generally in early games. I mean, if he's had 2 of 3 or whatever.
Well, what does it matter when you miss them?
They have been point differentials that would have been a tie or a win in at least 7 games, I count.
Wow.
Well, let's just get this straight, Mike. He did not cause those games because so many other mistakes was made that could have won those games. But what Mike is talking about is that Dustin Hopkins has been suffering from a growing injury. And everybody has been asking Coach Rivera every week on the calls is, what are you going to do about the special teams? Well, he finally did say that this week, that they are going to possibly look at other kickers to bring them in because it's a possibility that they may be replacing Dustin Hopkins. But the other thing, Tony, as he said, that it's hard to find a quality kicker as Dustin Hopkins. So it's been some problems with the growing injuries, but they're now entertaining the possibility. So Mike, let's not put it all on his head.
Let me give you a news break. They had a kicker pulled up last week. Vedvik, I think was his last name. Ready to go. He was in the slingshot. All they had to do was bring him up and make him active.
Yeah,
but they chose to go with Dustin because he wasn't experiencing anything from 50 yards out. Well, I mean, we're not kicking in practice on Sunday. And I
Yeah.
mean, you know, I did
They are
embrace
kicking
what
in practice, Milton.
I did embrace what Mark Mosley said to
Hey,
us
G,
a
it's
couple
getting a
weeks
little
ago.
hot over here, ain't it?
Well, no, but listen, everybody getting hall passes, and I don't mind giving him one, but I don't know, can you wait on a groin I mean, a groin is not anything you want to toy with, but can you wait on that in the midst of a position that is so dependent upon? You only have one of those on the team when you go into each game. So it's
Well,
not
that's
like you can
what
get a
Milton,
replacement. The man
Milton,
they
that's why
pay
they
him to
said,
kick.
that's
They
why
pay
they said that this week they're bringing in a person to possibly, it could be a replacement of setting Hopkins down. So,
Well,
and
okay, but I'm saying they
Fans-
had that same setup last week, and I'm not questioning Coach Rivera. All I'm saying is when the team was not playing well, and Dwayne Haskins was at quarterback, I rest my case.
Well, wait a minute. Fans, I want you to realize one thing. Mark your date. It's November 16th. And, well, when we're filming this. And this may be the first time you ever heard that. But for the second time, Milton said something against the Washington football team. And when we off air, we bring in a psychologist right away. You know, somebody need to talk to him because something's wrong. Hey, Milton, can we talk about it, man?
One thing about a homer earns the right to call it like it is. And I do. And I'm saying that for me, when I'm watching them bring out Hopkins, and we already knew all week long he had an injury, did we not envision that he might be in a position to help us win a game? So did we have a chance to bring in a healthy kicker? And
Well, let's
again,
talk about Danny Johnson.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, we've been talking each and every week about we need a big play. We need to change the field. We need good return. He presented that on.
You know,
Absolutely.
Brian Mitchell was talking about Danny Johnson, and he said he would watch a lot of the returners, especially the ones on the Washington football team. He said they would always take a step back, and then they would launch forward. He said the whole point is don't take a step back, and the whole point is run straight ahead. Don't try to juke somebody, that's basically in front of you. Run full speed ahead. Don't take a step back when you're catching the ball. And he said he didn't see Johnson do that. Johnson did it perfectly. And look what you got. You got a 46-yard return, the longest of the year.
Talk to me, G. I know you didn't do it regularly because you were such a good receiver, but do you agree with that analogy that some of our players may have over the years, instead of going toward the ball, and it kind of makes sense going towards it rather than taking that step back?
I think it depends on, and I'm not one to argue with Brian Mitchell at all because
I know what you're saying.
Because he's the best who's ever done. Him and Nams are the best that ever did it here in Washington. B. Mitch is one of the best that's probably ever done it in NFL history.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's at record after record after record. But also that he was like a lot of, anytime you're a receiver that's returning kicks, you're going to have a little bit more jitterbug to you. Like when I did, it was jitterbug. Like even Daryl, like if you're a fast guy, you're going to go moving side to side a little bit. Like I'm going to start you right, and then I'm going to come all the way back left. Or I'm going to start you left, and I'm going to come all the way back right because I have the speed to get away with it. But so I wasn't that straight ahead guy. I was that guy that I was going to make you think I was going one way, and then I was going to depend on my speed to be able to get away to bring it back all the way back around. I mean, that was my whole high school, college career was doing that. And that's why I was a good all-purpose guy, but I'm not going to argue with Brian Mitchell because he's hands down the best punt returner that I've had a chance to play with in my entire career. Pee wee, high school, college, that's including myself in college. He's the best that I've ever seen do it. So I'm gonna have to, agree with them, even though I didn't return kicks that way or punch that way. But if he says that's the right way to do it, then that's the right way to do it.
You know what? I'm gonna have my executive producer get Mike Nims on the phone because that's not what you said last week. But since you changed up on it,
I did not change up.
I'm just playing with you.
I mentioned Namdi today, but I really didn't have a chance to play. Notice I said who I played with.
Oh, okay. Great point there. But all joking aside.
I didn't actually get the chance to actually play with Mike during the season.
You know what though?
You can never catch G, Tony.
I know you did. You came back. I figured I'd throw it out. See, I came too quick. I was gonna wait a little time to catch you, but
And I was
I
just being
can't be
honest.
quick with it.
I said my rookie year between me and Namsy was better than me. I'm just being honest. He could catch it behind his back. I could not. I'm just saying that's what it was.
Hey,
But you
Tony,
know what, though? It is great for us, and Donna, you know how it is. We've always said, even though you talk about Hopkins and everything, it's great for us to finally get a returner. Now, you talk about your cousin, Mike. Great to get a returner now that's doing something, producing. Now, how do they keep it going?
That's the key.
Oh, that's a great question. Donna had a point on it, I could tell, Donna.
No, don't be jumping
No,
like
no,
I
I was
told you,
only-
Donna.
I was only going to say that finally they got the two guys that really returned punts back who have been injured. Even Sims is back. He was back the week before. He had the toe injury. They didn't want to put him out there so soon. So you got main return guys back that has done this for this team. So you're going to probably see some improvement over the weeks with those two guys back, Tony.
I agree.
We got a couple of minutes, Mike. What can they do to keep that momentum going, even though they got the two guys back? Because if you'll look at it, this next stretch of games would determine, even as bad as they or anyone else is at this time, is going to determine who's going to the playoff. What can those special teams do to help this team?
You know, what's really interesting to answer that question. If you take a look around the league, there have been so many injuries that a lot of these special teams players are doing full-time duty plus playing with special teams. And you look at the teams that have so many injuries that are depleted, and those are the teams you can run on. Cincinnati has a number of injuries. If the Washington football team has a chance to return a kick or a punt, a kickoff or a punt, it would be this week against the Cincinnati Bengals. They have a number of injuries, and a lot of those guys have been promoted to the full-time squad, and they're bringing in practice players who probably only have a week or two to work on special teams. I think they'll get one this week. I really do.
Mike,
Well,
I don't
now,
think we're the
before we take this break, let me try to get this jinx off of Mike. Just you don't need to be talking about no Cincinnati now and what we need to do. We jinxed all the way. When we come back, fans, we'll get it off for you, Mike, to drop it on us again. But we will talk about a division where we may not let no one go to the playoffs. They'll probably say none of you guys go. We'll be back in the moment. Well, you know what? If you take a look at it around the league, and some teams is doing some good things, and some teams are doing some bad things. We talk about this Washington team because we're very interested in them, and we see the potential there. But there's some teams out there that's doing some things. Well, I want to ask you guys about a few of them. When you start looking at breaking news, what has happened to the Seahawks guy? Now, leave it to me to say, when one guy is winning the games for you, sooner or later, you're going to lose. And I don't think anything happened to the Seahawks. They've been exposed.
You watch the Seahawks all year long, and they have no pass rush, absolutely no pass rush. So they'd get a lead on a team, and then basically teams would surge back at the end. The last two games, it's just it's a pass rush effort. They haven't protected Russell Wilson at all. But I mean, that team has no pass rush. That team is not going anywhere deep in the playoffs.
Plus, the running game, which was one of the best in the league 2 years ago, is non-existent now.
Cameron has been, what's his like? I think it's Cameron Carr. Cameron. I can't. Anyway, he's been injured the last couple of weeks. Can't stay on the field. That running game is really what's contributing to teams defensing them now. All they're doing is just playing them for the pass. They don't have a run game that's threatening.
Okay, Donna.
Seattle out. You never count Seattle.
Don't count them out. I agree with
like
because as long as you got Russell, as long as you got that big wide receiver that can play, as long as you got that defensive tackle playing wide receiver, you got a chance.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, you guys tell me this. Is Pittsburgh for real?
9-0.
You're asking, are they for real?
Yeah, you tell me, Donnie.
Tony, I tell you each week.
Tony.
Tony. I tell you each week.
Wait.
It sounds
Gary,
like
you
Donna's
know one
team.
thing we haven't heard in Milt, she must have fired her sources because she never talk about them anymore.
No, I always talk about my sources. That's the reason why I was talking about my sources with Dustin. But Pittsburgh, Tony, is for real. I mean, they played some powerhouse divisional games, and they're clicking on all cylinders. Big Ben makes that team goes. Plus, if you got a team that can run the ball successful, you're going to be able to move the needle. But their offensive and defensive line is so strong, Tony. I know you talk about them being small, but small, they play big still.
And a
Yeah,
great
but you know what?
coach.
Go
That
ahead.
too.
Oh,
Coach.
yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're right.
Great
Huge.
coach.
Yeah,
Yes,
great
sir.
coach.
Yes,
I,
sir.
I have to agree with you on that because, and that's the same way I think about some teams when they get major injuries. And he had a major injury last year and almost made the playoff. This year they come back and playing. But the one thing that I'm afraid on this team, Mike, and I'll tell you this right now, yeah, they're built with speed. They got good lines, but they're small. So when you come against a team like Tennessee that's got a running back that weighs 270 pounds and run 50 times a game, can this defense hold up to that?
Hit them low. You hit them low.
Get him lower, you try
That's a
to
business
miss.
decision. Hey, Tony, I will say this, and along with what Donna was saying, Big Ben does make that team go offensively, but they're at a team-wide now. They're at a place that they could almost be plug and play because I think that defense keeps them in their games, gives them field position, and the special teams contribute too. So look out for that defense. I don't see anything. I mean, I know you're talking about their size, but they, like Gary said, the coaching finds a way to compensate for that.
But how can you find a way in the 15th game of the year when you're worn down, you're smaller, and the other team across there got to people with a 200? This is what I'm speaking of. I'm talking about winning the whole thing.
I take them deep, Tony. I'm 5'9", 174. I take them deep. 15 games into the season. I
You
take
got
them
wait a
deep.
minute though.
That's the
You
strategy.
don't have your hand in
I
the
take
dirt.
them deep. Bad hamstrings and all. I take them
You
deep.
said take them deep.
I double post him. I double corner him. I just double it all at one time.
But
All
Tony,
don't
that's
mean you can't win, Tony.
But wait a minute. Speaking
All
of
don't
taking
win,
the beat.
don't mean you can't win.
But wait a minute. Speaking of taking the beat, what if the Giants
What
win the
about the
NFC
Spurs?
East?
The
Oh,
Giants,
What about the fun bunch?
I think
That's
Come on,
Giants-
Tony. You got a ring.
I
with
go
the
with
fun bunch in the front.
G. I misspoke because Milt wasn't here last week to help me out. So I'm off track, man. So, hey, Milt, don't miss no more time.
yeah. It'll be all
What
right.
if the Giants, but all joking aside, guys, what if the Giants, and I know it seems like far-fetched. I think it was 3 weeks ago, they hadn't won a game.
Y'all
Now
didn't
they won
listen to
3
me.
out of 4. Talk to me.
well, before they
Y'all
played
didn't listen to me. They just beat the Redskins. I told you, you didn't listen to me.
you
twice.
just owed us $1.
No, that's about $10.
That's yeah, they
That is cheap.
I told you, I get to say it.
No, you don't get
Don't make me
the
go pull out my ring.
see,
Don't make me go
You
pull
just
out the
said
ring.
skins
This
right
is how he
there.
browbeat Mike and got an extra game.
Well,
Got an extra game.
you knew something was coming when you saw the way they played the Bucks, and not only that, but they were basically in every game but one this year. Only one did they really get blown out. They were a coming team.
They're
And,
getting healthy. They're
even
getting
with
healthy.
Savion Barkley, they finally found a running game now. And I tell you, this team looks pretty good to me. And they handled Philadelphia. They're going to beat
quarterback
Dallas.
play.
Well,
Good
you know what's
quarterback
good
play.
about them? It's the quarterback play, but they're physical.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important. We got
Yeah,
about a minute to go. Tua, 3-0. He's showing that left hand can throw. He's very accurate.
Yeah.
And he's more nimble than they think. Does he really make Miami the threat? Give me anybody. Hit it right quick.
Third week, I've been waiting for his bubble to pop, but it doesn't look like it's gonna pop. I mean, he seems to be getting consistent, and I went against him for 3 weeks, so I don't know.
Is he better than we
G
thought?
laughing, so he must know something.
I
Yeah,
know how
Tony.
good he was.
I think he is better than we thought because his play is getting better each week. And they took the gamble to say, we want to see what we have in a quarterback. And he's basically stepped up and played well and got that team moving in the right direction.
So we know who everybody's going to pick this week in the Miami game. They're all going to pick Miami, folks.
Well, you're probably right. Now, we broached this, and I got about 10 seconds on it. If you look at the Saints, do you think they have enough people around that they can still be contenders if Breeze is out?
Well, that's a great
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, Tony. Defense is
Never
not
know.
there, and it's only one Drew Brees. There's
Also,
only one Drew.
No.
Jameis Winston, I mean, yes, what do you have, like 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions?
Call him the 30-30 man, 30
But I'll tell you
touchdowns.
one thing, he can have brilliant performances when he puts his mind to it. And then you've got Taysom Hill coming in on third down who can run it or throw it. I don't know. I wouldn't rule out the Saints yet.
Yeah, well, you don't rule out the picks on the
support.
picks, so we know where you coming from. Speaking of the picks, ladies and gentlemen, we had to separate people before the show because it was fight. Everybody's saying they get pencils. So in this next segment, we'll do the picks. But when you talk about not giving up, you guys watch Mike doing this. Keep an eye on it. In a minute. Mike, there's some big things happening.
Yeah,
Come
you
on.
got with this. These are our picks this week, folks. Let's start with Atlanta.
Oh, wait, he want to get right to the pick.
Yeah.
Fans watching.
No, Atlanta at New Orleans. You got to rethink that now. If you think about it, with no Drew Brees and only a week of preparation to feast to.
Hey, Mike, you can't influence nobody. You can you need to look at it.
But I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick against New Orleans. I'm going to pick with Atlanta. But here's the good one. Baltimore came off a really, really paltry showing against Pittsburgh. Of course, it was horrible. The wind, the gusts, it was really tough for my Ravens. Nonetheless, it's Tennessee at Baltimore this week. And do you think that Tennessee is about ready to reignite itself, or does Baltimore reassert itself?
Well, you know what? And guys, you need to answer on this. When I look at Baltimore, I look at a team that was just like somewhat similar to Seattle, where one guy was really stirring the Kool-Aid and everybody else was drinking it. And right now they got it figured out how to really stop him a little bit right now, which he will figure that out. But at the same time, this is where your defense and your offense got to step up. But I think what's hurting them most of all, their big running back is nicked again.
Yes.
And they need that running game. They don't need for their quarterback to be the leading rusher because he has to. They need him to be the leading rusher because he wants to be.
Well, now,
I was going to say that their running game is what's hurting Baltimore right now because Lamar Jackson has to do so much himself because they don't have that running game.
Well, he's back though, right? He was back last week.
So what?
Yeah. Okay. So
Shadowing was back.
Oh, yeah.
now
What'd you say, G?
If you're the guy and they expected you the guy and you go past it, it's like saying Jordan. It's Jordan. I'm gonna go out. Stop me.
Well, yeah, when you put it like that, G.
all right.
But he's not Jordan yet, right, Don?
I mean, I'm just saying. For example, it's like I'm Marina. What? Stop me.
You have Philadelphia.
I'm the guy. I'm the guy.
You have Philly at Cleveland. Now, Philly is in first place in the NFC East. They're
Not for long.
Not for long.
You got Philly at Cleveland, and Cleveland is having some problems. What do you think, guys?
Cleveland won.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're not having no problems. They did win. So
Well, one thing we know is that Baker Mayfield stays on campus a lot, so that's good.
Yeah.
Basically,
From what I
Is that how
I
y'all
know
make
that the young defense is really coming along.
Yeah, it is.
They got a receiver that's hurt, but they still have a plethora of people that can make plays on there.
Yeah.
The way Cleveland is a winning team is they run the ball. And if you notice the games that they've struggled with lately has been when they can't run the ball. I know they got receivers, but their whole emphasis has to be on running the ball. And if they can't run the ball, they have a problem. Philadelphia, it won't be long. They'll be right down there where they need to be at the bottom.
What it should have been. And you know,
No question.
Cleveland brought Chubbs back this past week too. So their running game is probably going to be intact when they play Philly.
Folks, this is the way I get to figure out what the picks are going to be right here. That's why we've added this new segment here. All right, Kansas City at Las Vegas. Is there any chance that John Gruden can get the Kansas City guys where it hurts?
Thing is possible, but that doesn't mean it may happen.
Donna, there's Kool-Aid on this show. I can tell. There's Kool-Aid on this show.
Wait a minute, I'm waiting for anything's possible, Donna. So I know.
Yeah, I thought he gonna lead up with something.
I know
it's
somebody's gonna come in that
but-
door and give me a contract for this year. I'm waiting.
Possible. It's
Anything's
possible.
possible?
It's possible. I told you, Tony, it's possible, but it's not going to happen against Kansas City.
No, you know what though? Now I may disagree with you on that because
It's a
I
long
think
trip.
Kansas is somewhat in the same position as Baltimore. They got two dynamic young playmakers. The playmakers are taking it up on themselves to win the game whenever they get in trouble. People have figured them out. G, all of you guys know, and G can tell you even better. Once you've been in the league for a year or two, they look at every bit of film. And remember Kaepernick when he first came in? Nobody could figure him out. He was like Rubik's Cube. They turned it every kind of way, but gave them about 3 or 4 years. They knew exactly what he was going to do. So I look at Kansas City. That's starting to happen to them. The only thing about that quarterback there, he's so good.
If
He got weapons
if you're
too.
the chosen one, you figure it out as well yourself at the end of the
Yeah.
day. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
So when you're the guy, they're figuring you out. You make sure that you have to refigure them out, so you're still the guy in front of them, one step ahead. So
And Uncle Milty said he got some weapons, Uncle Milty.
Oh, he got weapons now. I just don't think that Las Vegas has enough to stop all of what Kansas City has.
Yeah.
And,
Oh,
and
look
they
at
don't-
Mike shaking his head. What do you have to say about that, Mike?
Well, you know, I'm probably going to go with Las Vegas only because last week, I don't know if it's like the 13 home games won, home teams won, and what, 1 or 2, whatever it was. Almost all the home teams won last week. So I think I'm going to go with New Orleans, Baltimore, Cleveland, Las Vegas, and Denver.
Well, wait a minute. We
No
all
one's
can do
gonna
it
know
on
about it,
television
Mike.
where everybody can hear us.
No,
Oh, yeah.
no one's going to know
We got
about it,
2
Mike.
minutes.
No.
We can
Everything
take
that
these 2
happens in
minutes
Las
and do our
Vegas
bit.
stays in
Stays in
Las Vegas.
All right.
So nobody ain't going to hear about it.
Denver isn't much, but Miami's going to Denver. I mean, is Tua going to go 4-0?
Oh, no, he's right.
I may go for him there, but I'm going to tell you one thing that'll be a major factor.
The weather?
Weather.
Oh,
In more ways than one. Number one, Tua is a warm climate guy. Number 2, he's coming off an injury. Number 3, Denver, it could snow. I remember one time they had 40 points on us before they finished doing the starting lineup. That can happen up in Denver. So right now, that Denver game, you take away all that, because right now you're in the middle of winter up there. They may get out there and have to play in 4 inches of snow. I don't see them doing that. So I wouldn't mark that off so quick saying Denver can't win.
you're not going to vote for Denver, though. I thought was going to do it.
You want me to do something they haven't been able to do. But with that being said, they have an opportunity, and I'm not even going to look at the opponent, and we only got about 30 seconds. I look at one thing: eliminate your mistakes. Make plays each and every time that you get an opportunity to make them, and you can win the game. You've been in each and every game. You should have won at least 3 or 4 more. So it's not out of the realm of reality that they can win that game.
Good
Yeah.
point. Good point.
I sound like I knew what I was doing then. Are we out, Mike? Do we get a chance to come back, Mike, today, or do I have to wait till next week to expose you?
yeah. No, you can come back next week and expose me. But the first round draft pick, the first pick in the draft, and the second pick in the draft. I think the second pick in the draft rules the day.
Damn, where did that come from?
I
That
just got
come-
one
Mike,
question.
Mike.
Mike, I
strong,
like
Mike.
that.
Ask one
That's strong.
question before. I thought we was going to do a tribute on me. I'm confused. What's the tribute?
Come on with it. We got about 30 seconds. We need to do a tribute. G, talk to me.
I thought Mike said he was going to do a tribute on.
Yeah.
I didn't get a tribute.
I'll do a tribute on you, Gary, next week. I'll get all
He
the
gonna
votes.
do a tribute
Now
while
we
he
got
changing
put for a
your
whole nother
score.
week.
Yeah.
Why would we
Every
do a
week.
tribute on
I'll call
you?
James
know-
Madison this week and get some
I
footage.
just thought it was going to be like, every week we do like a G moment, every week.
Fans, don't fret.
I mean, I swear my contract said.
We're way out of time. We're way out of
When
time.
we come back next week, we will do a tribute to the G.
I will do a tribute, I promise.
Nobody. So when we come back next week, let's see can we tribute what the Redskins will. So as we always say, no way to say goodbye because we can't. In a minute.